The great commandment of Jesus begins, "Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind." We repeat that quite regularly, although we are more inclined to go directly to the second part about loving thy neighbor as thyself, that line being somewhat more comprehensible to preach on, and I admit I managed to fit the second part into about 25% of my homilies. But the first part, now that is a challenge. I mean, what does it mean to love with your whole heart, soul, and mind? What does that leave over for your spouse, your parents, children, neighbor, and all the rest that we're told to love? I'm inclined to think that love, like ice cream, comes in different flavors. Let me share my experience with motherhood as to how I came to this conclusion. When my son was born, he became the center of my life, and I loved him with every bit of the parental love I had. In fact, when I became pregnant with my second child, I fretted for 9 months over the poor little thing who would grow up unloved, since my son had all of my love. Perhaps my being an only child makes this more understandable, since it seemed so inevitable. But then Kate arrived, and an inexhaustible new heart full of love materialized out of nowhere. And the same thing happened with each subsequent babe. Well, love seems to start quite simply in dependence and expands. I would advance the notion that in creation, we were given love for God, the creator of all. Then, when born, you love your personal creators, better known as parents, and then the rest of the ones you live with, and then relatives and playmates and friends and neighbors and so on, the numbers and varieties ever growing. And although we use the same word, we do love different people with very different kinds or experiences of love. Certainly the love for your child is very different from what you hold for your parents, as clearly different as is the love you have for your spouse and that of your granny. And then there is that more abstract love for all of God's creation, which is far from the love you have for your dog or your best friend, although sometimes, of course, dog and best friend being the same thing. I quite often feel that I just take God and his love too much for granted. Much as a child, unthinkingly and confidently, assumes the parent will love them no matter what, and that the relationship will flourish with the business of daily life, a casual kiss, an occasional "love you" as you head out the door. We just assume that God, like parents, will always be there for us, and that someday we will have enough time to really explore the relationship and return the love. The love between parent and child is really quite complete. It survives intact the terrible twos, the first day of school, measles and chicken pox, the teens, acne, rebellions, first love and kisses, discipline, triumphs, diverging opinions, joys, disappointments, and so much more. Now, I know there were occasions when my children saw me as a mean old harridan, planted in their lives to do nothing except spoil their fun and destroy their lives. But they never doubted my love. Now, my yes, that was up for grabs. And on particularly trying days, my son would warn the girls, "Watch out, Mother only loves us today." That he saved for such occasions. From that first moment when a babe is placed in your arms, their wee hands reach out and your hearts meld in an eternal love that will last as long as you. And when the day comes that your mother, who protected you and made all the decisions in your young life, becomes herself like a child some decades later, you hold her in your arms and make her decisions, and the love still grows ever stronger. And as you hold her, you will wish you had made more time and talked and traveled and ate dinner together more often. But time just sneaks away. We bury those we love, but love doesn't linger in the grave. It carries on, growing more perfect, the irritations gone, and memories polished. And that's what we need to do with all of our loves. Wipe out the irritations and savor the good times. Of all the gifts of God, and they are many, it's hard to place them in any order, but love is certainly something everyone wants and strives for. We want to be special in someone's life, and we want them to be special in ours. There's a harmony to love that reaches across the room, and souls touch, eyes meet, and an understanding of the unsaid. No words to explain the connection which both just experienced. It's one of the joys and delights that love provides, and that grows with the years and the touchings of a maturing love. Not only does love change over time, but so does our understanding of it, our approach to it, our appreciation of it. I remember a first-year English course at university that had us write a paper on the conflict between these two sentiments. Better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, and the smell of the rose is bitter to he who loved the rose. I do wish I could find that old paper to see how much I have changed, because I'm sure that I argued the latter. Now I would be more nuanced. If love results in jealousy and rage, then better to avoid it until one is sufficiently mature to handle romantic love. On the other hand, a life without love would be so barren that it would be almost unworthy of the gift that is life. Now, love for God is forever, but romantic love in particular may have highs and lows, starts and stops, and may even drift away into fond memories or outgrown as lives move in different directions. It may even end in sadness and regrets and division. But the fact that it was once believed in and experienced deserves respect for a time and place of love, even though it may be no more. If we could manage that in our closest relationships, what a wonderful tribute that would be to the teachings of our God of love. Imagine if separations were covered by memories of the good times and the bad times set aside as, unfortunately, the reason for division, but not to dwell on it in determining the future. The good times of life being so much more important in respecting the value and the virtue of the other one loved. If we only remembered why we fell in love, what it was about the person, their sense of humor, their romantic songs, the excitement they brought into a room, their skill at cooking, or on the slopes. And if we could then take those memories and negotiate with that person, not the person one now perceives, the one whose very presence drives up your hackles and you up the wall, what a different outcome there would be. To work on respect and a willingness to at least agree to disagree. One thing to remember, the opposite of love is not hatred, it's indifference. And that is the safest and best answer to a love gone bad or just gone. Hatred is an active, devouring, poisonous sin to be avoided at all costs. And what a dishonor it is to the love once held, the person once loved, the person who made you feel loved. If you cannot forgive, if you cannot escape to indifference, then you need to be working on you. For the alternatives will spoil, even destroy you, and the future of finding love once again becomes clouded and lost. It is in remembering the good and abandoning the sad that we grow as individuals and leave behind the bitter. When you feel down, remember what you loved about your first job, about the subject that thrilled you in high school, the teacher you adored in kindergarten, and the rock star you screamed for. Remembering love is very therapeutic. Remember, when we let bad things fester in our memories, day after day, we take away the luster from what we have. And the object of our irritation, dislike, or discord doesn't suffer any of that. The only person you punish is you. And isn't that such a sad reality? Worst of all, you eliminate the possibility of finding new love and joy and the ability to leave the sad and the bad behind. Love is such a lovely thing, and I have had a grand week considering its many elements and what a joy it is to share on so many levels. So, live in love, the gifts of God for the people of God, and ever love God in all God's wonderful, incarnate, and beyond understanding, majesty, and glory. So may it be. Amen. Well, I offer a fun exercise for this week of love. Go online and seek out your favorite quotations on love. There are some wonderful ones. My favorite this week comes from Miracle Max, better known as Billy Crystal, in The Princess Bride, who offered, "True love is the greatest thing in the world. Except for a nice MLT, mutton, lettuce, and tomato sandwich, where the mutton is lean and the tomato is ripe." Love, what more can one say? So plan something special for someone you love. A love letter, a picture shared, a special call, a Christmas wreath, just to share that wondrous feeling one more time and explore how to love God, the great unknowable. Until next week, when with the fourth Sunday of Advent, we get to explore joy. See you then, God willing, I trust.